3.
Okay, we begin on 18A3. Yudchet Amud Aleph. Did I upload last week's class in the end?
I think you're missing a bunch.
Am I?
I think so.
It's a disaster because they sit on my phone. Each one is like 10 gig.
Yeah.
All right, I have to find which ones are. All right.
You're forcing me to go to Rabbi Mansour.
Forcing you to go to, oh, really? Ay.
Because I
Sorry.
like to listen
There's worse things that happen to Am
in
Yisrael
return. Right.
than listening to
I
Rabbi
need
Mansour.
reinforcement.
Okay. Bezat Hashem, I'm going to try and I'll try and make sure that they're all up.
The Wednesday night one was a short one, anyway.
I don't think so. Oh, maybe was it Sunday that was longer?
Right, Sunday was
Was Wednesday night one was the Chanukah Rabbi, wasn't it? That's why.
no, it was the one after, I think, no? Oh, right. The
No, it was
Chanukah
Chanukah
Rabbi.
Rabbi. Okay, let's go. 18A1. A3. 18 Amud Aleph. Okay. V'chen Amar Bali. Amar Rabbi Hayya bar Abba. Bali was the name of this rabbi, and his he also said, and it's an interesting also, because normally also, kind of gloms on to the last thing that was said. So the last thing that was said was actually the opinion of Shemuel that followed the most lenient possible opinion, right? So it's a little bit strange that we're saying v'chen and also, but it's kind of jumping back to the last thing that we said before we said that, which is Rav's opinion. So Rav went a little bit more strict, and Rav held according to Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi, his opinion was, as we said, that a person fasts before, right? They fast before lefanav v'la'aharav. Ben lefanav, ben aharav asur. Okay, so let's continue. I mean, one could say that it's actually more lenient because he's telling you that it's asur to fast. So one could say that asur is actually more lenient. But either way, V'chen Amar Bali. Bali also said, Amar Rabbi Hiya bar Abba, in the name of Rabbi Hiya bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Halacha ki Rabbi Yossi. He also held that the halacha was like Rabbi Yossi. Amar Rabbi Hiya lebali. Rabbi Hiya said as well lebali. Ezber alach. Let me explain to you. Ki Amar Rabbi Yochanan. When Rabbi Yochanan explained and said halacha ki Rabbi Yossi, that when it says in Megillat Taanit that there's a day that you can't fast, that applies ben lefanav. You also can't fast on the day before it or the day after it. Any of these minor holidays. When did Rav Yochanan say that? When did he hold that way? According to Rav Yossi, adelo lehitana, only on the concept of not fasting. But on the ones that are not about fasting, in other words, the ones which are about eulogizing, he never said that. So let's look at Rashi. So what does that actually mean? Achi Garsinan. You see 3 lines from the bottom of Rashi. Ki amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha adelo lit'ana. Diyamim ha'ketuvim Megillat Taanit lo lit'ana. On the days that it says not to fast, lifnehen asurim ula'aharav mutarim. Beforehand is asur to fast, before the day that you can't fast. And also the aharav, but the aharav is mutar. Ki Rabbi Yossi. According to Rabbi Yossi. V'lo ki Rabbi Meir, that according to Rabbi Meir, that says af lifnehem mutar. Rabbi Meir was very lenient, and he said even beforehand was allowed. Aval adelo misped, when we got to something that was more strict, the no eulogy. What did Rabbi Yossi hold then? He held you're not allowed to fast before and after. The en halacha ki Rabbi Yossi, the amar lefanav ula acharav asur, ela ki Rabbi Meir, the amar lefanav asur laharav mutar. So it turns out, ironically, that this Rabbi Yochanan that Rav Chia bar Abba quoted, and Bali was saying that he holds halacha ki Rabbi Yossi, is not really ki Rabbi Yossi. He picks and chooses. When it comes adelo lehitana, he picks the opinion of Rav Yossi, which is beforehand asur, afterwards mutar. When it comes lehitana, right, there he doesn't hold to the opinion of lo misped, so the time of when you're not even eulogize, so a more strict of the minor fasts, of the minor holidays. So there, he doesn't hold like Rav Yossi that holds that it's asur before and after. He holds like Rabbi Meir that holds that it's asur before and not after. So it turns out, no matter what, he always holds before asur, after the fast, it's mutar. That's neither Rav Yossi nor Rabbi Meir. He's just picking the law before Asur, after Mutar. Okay? So I think what the Gemara is trying to illustrate over here, this V'chen Amar, is that the same way we had a ruling which was then qualified as not being about the opinion of the person who said it. So last week we read about it. We said, he said halakha is according to halakha ki Rabbi Meir. Halakha is like Rabbi Meir. The Gemara says, is that true? I remember Shmuel said halakha was like Rabbi Shmuel ben Gamliel. The Gemara says, you're right. First he said halakha was Rabbi Meir. Then he found someone who was even more lenient, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, and he went like him. So it turns out he wasn't really going according to Rabbi Meir. He wasn't really going according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He was basically saying that you follow the most lenient opinion on this halakha midrabanan. So it's not really about who said it, it's more about the concept. So the Gemara then says, V'chen Amar, so too do we find this idea. When they said the halakha of Bali in the name of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yochanan said a certain halakha, and then he qualified the halakha to say, no, he only meant it adelo lehitana. But on the other days, he never really said that the halakha was like Rabbi Yossi. So it turns out in all circumstances, he held that the halakha was that you say that you do not fast before, but that you could fast after. Now, I just want to preface. So we had just an idea that we just came across with. That Rav Chia bar Abba, the name of Rav Yochanan, just ruled like Rav Yossi in one case and Rav Meir in another case. The Gemara says, did Rav Yochanan, could he possibly have said that? Rav Yochanan always says, he has a general principle in his ruling, in his laws of how you rule in Psak Halakha. Halakha ki stam Mishnah. What that means is, anytime you come across a stam Mishnah, a Mishnah with only one opinion, and the Mishnah basically renders a decision. So it's not like Rabbi Meir says this, Rabbi Akiva says, it just says, on the day of whatever, you do this. You should know that we rule according to that Mishnah. Because if the Mishnah did not bring a dissenting opinion, so then that's how you rule. And the Mishnah was trying to teach you that that's how we rule by bringing you an uncontested Mishnah. Okay? Now what that means is, if there's an uncontested Mishnah, then you find me somewhere else, a Braita, where the two people are arguing, the Mishnah that carries the day is the uncontested Mishnah, which teaches you how to rule. If that's the case, so then we have a Mishnah, V'tanan, even though we said you are makdimin, v'lo ma'acharin, the Mishnah over here is referring to the laws of Megillah. On a Megillah, we know that you used to read the Megillah on the 14th day or on the 15th day, depending on whether you were in a walled city or an unwalled city. Okay? What would happen if the day that you were trying to read it on came out not on a day of the gathering in of the people from to the city? So, as an example, they used to have people who lived in the farms, in the fields. They didn't have a minyan, they didn't have a knis, they didn't have a sefer Torah, they didn't have a Megillah, they didn't have anything. So what they do, they would go on a Monday and they would go on a Thursday. Monday, Thursday were the days of Torah because those were the market days. That's why we have a Monday and Thursday Torah even today, because those used to be the market days. Okay? Now, since that's the case, so what would happen if you had a Megillah reading that fell out on a Wednesday, fell out on a Tuesday, fell out on a whatever, Friday? You would move it to the nearest market day, says the Mishnah, makdimin, beforehand, lo ma'acharin. You wouldn't, if it was on a Monday, you wouldn't push it to Thursday or a Wednesday. You don't push it to Thursday. You always go earlier. Makdimin. Says the Gemara, however, once you're makdimin, so let's say as an example, Purim is on Wednesday. I move it back now to Monday. So Monday is my Megillah reading day. Says the Mishnah, mutarin behesped v'ta'anit. Still, you're allowed to have a eulogy, you're allowed to have a fast. So you can have a scenario where a person will have a fast for whatever reason, and the fast will come out on the same day as Megillah, and he's fasting while he's reading the Megillah.
Yeah. You can do that?
Yes, that's what the Mishnah is telling us. Why? Because the Makdimin is not actually Purim. It's the Megillah reading day. Purim remains on its day. Okay? Now,
we hold that way today. You could read earlier.
today we don't bring it earlier.
But are you allowed if someone was in a I don't know some scenario? Could they listen to it the day before the Megillah? And
So
still
once
be
we
upset?
mitaken that we're reading it the way we read it today, that's the day to read it on. However, if a person is in an extenuating circumstance, they would allow him to read the Megillah without a beracha, not on the correct day, so long as it's one of the days that the Gemara and Megillah begins to say have the day of Purim called upon them, which is the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th. Okay.
We've done this earlier.
No, we're talking about in a b'di'evet situation where, for whatever reason, guy's in a coma. He wakes up the day, or he goes into a coma after that. Well, he knows they're going to put him under for a surgery. He's not going to be awake for Purim. Guy's going to be dead for Purim. Whatever. Is he allowed to read it the day before, or is that just not a thing? So that's what he's asking. Okay. Says the Gemara, Mutarim ve'esped ta'anit. Emat es Gemara. When is this Mishnah telling you this law? Now, what we're going to do basically is try and set up this Mishnah in a way where it creates a checkmate to Rabbi Yochanan ruling the way he ruled according to Rabbi Baraba. Okay? Says the Gemara, Emat. When is this Mishnah telling you that the guy moved it forward? Ilema b'necha mesar, a 15-day Purim. The day of Purim is on the 15th. V'kakaru le ba'arba, and they read early on the 14th. The Gemara says that can't be the scenario where we say if you're makdimin, you could read it early, but you're allowed to fast and have a eulogy. It can't be that it's 15 and the guy brought it forward to 14. Umishari v'haktiv Megillat Taanit Yom Haba Asar Bo Yom Chamisha Asar Bo on the 15th, 14th day, and on the 15th day of the month, Yome Puraya Inun are the days of Purim. De lo lemisped bahon, that you're not allowed to do a hesped on them. Okay? So therefore, ve'amar Rava, and Rava says, lo nitzricha ela esor et shel zeh bazeh ve'et shel zeh bazeh. The reason why it had to write it in Megillat Ta'anit is in order to say that a 15 guy can't fast on the 14, and a 14 guy can't fast on a 15. Let me explain why Rava understood that. The pasuk itself says that the 14th day and the 15th day are Yemei Mishteh V'Simcha. Yemei Mishteh V'Simcha, the Gemara says, means you're not allowed to fast, you're not allowed to have eulogy. Mishteh means you can't fast because it's a day of feasting. Yeah, Simcha means a day of joy. That means that you can't have a eulogy. So therefore, those days are off the charts. We didn't need Megillat Ta'anit to tell you what it says in the Megillah itself. So Rava understood that therefore, what must it be telling you? That if you're keeping 15, you can't do 14. And if you're keeping 14, you can't do 15. So therefore, if that's the case, so it can't be that our Mishnah over here is telling you that if you jumped early to 14, you're allowed to do the eulogy and the fast on the 14th, correct? Because we just saw that's not allowed. Lo nitzricha ela le'esor, sorry. So what is it talking about? Bnei arbesar. It's talking about a Purim of a day 14 guy. V'kakari le'betlesar, and you read it on the 13th day. Gemara says that can't be. Yom Nikanoru. It's the day of Nikanor. The Megillat Ta'anit says that the day of 13th is also a minor holiday. Mm-hmm. What that means, we'll come back to what Yemei Nikanor is, okay? But that was a minor holiday in Megillat Ta'anit. So it can't be that you could fast on that day and do eulogy on that day, because that's its own minor holiday. Ve'ela, okay, fine, says the Gemara. Okay, I got you. Bnei Arbesar, so it's a 14 guy. Ve'kakari le'betresar, he's reading it on the 12th, i.e., falls on Wednesday. He's not reading it on the Tuesday, he's reading it on the Monday. So it's 2 days early. So it's telling you that. The Gemara says, no, Yom Turyanusu. It's the day of Turyanus, which is also Megillat Ta'anit. The 12th day of the month is also a minor holiday. By the way, I think the Syrians would have loved this Megillat Ta'anit, right? Every day is a Yehishem. There's a Tahanun. Fantastic. Yom Turyanusu. So therefore, it can't be the 12th. Elalav. So what's the only remaining possibility to institute this Mishnah that tells you that you bring Megillah reading early, you're still allowed to fast and eulogize on that day? What could that possibly be? The only possibly day, exactly. Dikakarule bechadesar. They read it on the 11th. The Katani, and it says on this 11th day, mutar behespedu b'ta'anit. You're allowed to have hesped and ta'anit.
But that's the day before.
That's the day before Turyanus. Turyanus is a minor holiday. It's a lifanav.
Right.
And you see clearly that Rabbi Yochanan, that says about an uncontested Mishnah that you rule like it, he must not rule lifanav is asur. Because I found you an uncontested Mishnah that says lifanav on the day before Yom Turyanus. Gemara says, no, you think you got me. You think you got checkmate. I still got moves. I still got moves up my sleeve. Udika amrit Yom Taryanus. No, 1 second. That's not what's going on here. Lo. I'm going to tell you that Mishnah is talking about a 14 that gets read on a 12. Udika amrit Yom Taryanus. You wanted to tell me that it's Yom Taryanus. Yom Taryanus gufe bitule bitluhu. The actual day of Yom Taryanus itself, they abolished as being a minor holiday. So it's written in Megillat Taanit, but subsequently they annulled its holiday status. Kind of like what they're trying to do to Columbus Day, Yani. Okay? Ho'il v'nehergu bo Shmaya ve'achia achiv. Shmaya and Achia, who we do not know who they are. But the Megillat Taanit and the Gemara and the Mishnah over here, also going to say in a second, tell us that they were righteous men that both were killed, murdered on the same day. Once they were murdered on the same day, it overrode the holiday status, and the day became again a regular day. Kihad Rav Nachman, the Rav Nachman gazar ta'anita betresar, he declared a ta'anit for whatever reason on the 12th day. Amru le Rabbanan, the rabbi said to him, Yom Tuyanusu, how are you doing a thing? A fast, it's the day of Tuyanus. Amaluhu, Yom Tuyanus gufe, betule betuluhu. That day itself, they upended it. Ho'il v'nehergu bo Shemaya v'achia achiv, because on that day the Sadiqim were murdered, and therefore we took it off. Okay? So if that's the case, so now we don't have a question about the 11th, about the 12th. Ask the Gemara, what are you talking about? But the 12th is still the day before the 13th. Now, why at this stage the Gemara didn't just leave it at the 11th and then remove the 12th so that it's not a day before? Why don't we just leave it there? Right? We'll see what the Gemara answers. The Gemara says if you just moved it now to the 12th, it's a day before Nikanor. Rav Ashi says, Hashta'ihu gufe bitlu. That day itself, we were mivatel. Mishum yom Nikanor nekum v'nigzor. Because of the day of Nikanor, we're going to reinstate the day. Look at Rashi. Rashi explains, what does that
I
mean?
think you lost all the Syrians, by the way.
What do you mean?
We're
getting rid of all the holidays. These black hats, what are they doing? They're ruining everything, okay? So, the Gemara says, right? Sorry, Rashi says. Where are we? Yeah. Okay. So the Gemara asks, okay, 12. Now we don't have. So the Gemara asks, what about it? The fact that it's the day before Nikanor, and then on that the Gemara answers, no, we're not worried about the day before Nikanor, because if we abolished the actual day itself because of a very sad thing that happened on that day, we're not going to say that you can't eulogize on that day because it's the day before Nikanor.
If you got rid of Nikanor.
No, we got rid of. Your question is the day before Nikanor. Right. The answer is if we got rid of an actual minor holiday, i.e., Turyanus, because it was such a sad day with Shmaya and Achia, his brother, getting killed. You're not going to tell me that I can't eulogize on that day because the next day is Nikanor. If it was strong enough of a sad day to uproot an actual holiday, minor holiday, it's strong enough to uproot the day prior to a minor holiday. So therefore, the Mishnah is not telling you against what we originally said to Rabbi Yochanan, because it's a special circumstance. It happens to be talking about a date. Now, why it couldn't have remained on Yud Aleph and then we don't need Rav Ashi, I'm not sure. Okay? So let's move on. Okay?
Talks about Nicanor and Turianos.
No, I'm just curious if anyone discusses why we didn't just leave it on the 11th and avoid the whole Nicanor part of the Gemara. I'm not sure. I gotta look into that. Okay, let's carry on. So what are these things the Gemara asks? My Nicanor, umay Tuyanus. What's Nicanor, the holiday of Nicanor and the holiday of Tuyanus? The Tanya, the Braita says, Nicanor, this man, Nicanor, who was he? Nicanor was Echad Me'afarche Yevanim Haya. He was a Greek officer.
It sounds Greek.
Sorry?
It sounds Greek.
Nicanor, yeah. Yes, exactly. It has a Greek sound. Ubechol Yom Vayom Haya Menif Yado Al Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Okay? Every single day, he would wave his hand towards Yehuda and Yerushalayim, towards the Jewish territories. Ve'omer, and he would say, Matai tipol biyadi ve'mersena. When will this finally fall? When will we finally conquer Jerusalem? And Mersena, I will trample all over it. Ukishegavra malchut bet Chashmonai, and when the Chashmonaim rose up, v'nitzchum, and they defeated the Assyrian Greeks, kitzitzu behonot yadav v'raglav. They cut off Nicanor's big toe and his big thumbs. Utila'um b'sharei Yerushalayim, and they hung them in the gates of Jerusalem. Ve'ameru, and they said, Peh she'haya medaber bega'ava, the mouth that spoke with such arrogance, the yadayim shehayu menifot al Yerushalayim, and the hands that would be waving against Jerusalem, te'aseh bahem nekama, you have revenge, come against them. So that was the holiday of the day of Nicanor. Okay?
Is that why we have Shara Nicanor?
Shara Nicanor is an entirely different story.
But the name matches. I understand.
The name does match. Yes, the name matches. But
and they hung it from one of the Sha'arim of Yerushalayim. It says.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. But this is not the same Nicanor. Now, ironically, if you take a look, they write it in the notes.
What number?
Number 14. Yeah? Now, what's interesting also is that
You left out the part about his head being cut off.
so I didn't leave out the part. The Gemara left out the part.
It doesn't say it,
But what's interesting is where did the commentaries get? If the Gemara doesn't say he cut his head off, how do we know he cut his head off? Because the Chashmonaim said two things. They said the hand that waved, and they said the mouth that should have nikama taken against it. So if this was their chief military enemy, so I get that you're going to do that to him. But for some reason the Gemara doesn't mention that. Maybe that was considered too grotesque to mention in the Gemara.
Hang that part up.
Sorry? No, he's saying that they also did. And by the way, that wasn't the only time where they had that. You also had that with, I believe it was Helipurni, which was the Greek general that Yehudit managed to wine and dine until she cut off his head. And she hung it also from the gates and on the wall, and the Greek soldiers saw it, and they were completely discombobulated and disheartened. Okay. So once that happened, the Chachamim declared the day of Nicanor should be a minor holiday. My Tuyanus. So what is this Tuyanus? Amiru, kishibikesh Tuyanus la'arog et Lulyanus upapus achiv beludki. When you had a situation where these two great tzaddikim, okay, Tuyanus tried to kill them in this city of Ludki. Amalehem, he said, Im me'amo shel Chanan Mishael v'Azayatim, if you come from the same nation as these three great prophets that went into the furnace and emerged alive, Yavo Elohechem yatzil etchem miyadi, let your God come and save you from my hand. Kiderech shetzil Chanan Mishael v'Azayah miyad Nebuchadnezzar, just like he saved them from Nebuchadnezzar in the furnace. Amrulo, they replied, Chananya Mishael v'Azayah tzadikim gimurin hayu. They were completely righteous tzadikim. Uriuyin hayu la'asot lahem nes. They were worthy of having a nest done for them. Nebuchadnezzar, and also here's where they put the burn. Nebuchadnezzar melech hagunaya. He was also a real king, a proper king.
Why?
V'ra'ui le'asot nes al yado. and a nes was worthy to come through his hand. Okay, sorry.
Nebuchadnezzar is written as two words. Is that?
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Usually it's one word. That's the name.
Isn't it like a suffix?
I'm not sure, but I will tell you one thing. Many times the word Nebuchadnezzar is also transposed with Nebuchadrezzar.
What's that?
I think they're just terminologies that they use for the same king. So you have Nebuchadnezzar, you have Nebuchadnezzar, you have Nebuchadrezzar.
It's like Hussein.
All interchangeable.
Interchangeable, yes. Ra'ui la'asot nes al yado, ve'oto rasha, but you, hedyotu, you're nobody. Ve'enu ra'ui la'asot nes al yado. There's no miracle that could happen through you. Ve'anu nitchayavnu kilaya lemakom, and we also, not only are we not righteous like they were, tzadikim gimurim, we have enough averot that we deserve to die. We deserve to pay with our lives to God. And if you don't kill us, God will find another execution, someone to kill us. God has many bears and many lions that instead of you will come and kill us. But why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us over to you? If he could have killed us with a bear, a lion, any other way. He gave us to you so that ultimately he could take revenge against you. Still, even though they told him that Borei Olam would take revenge and kill them, they would kill him, he killed them anyway. Amiru lo zazu misham, they did not leave there. There was no movement. Ad shebau diyupli miromi, until two officers came from Rome with a diplomatic edict, a writ. Upatzeu et mocho begizrin, and they split open his brain either with clubs or with axes.
So much for not being,
too graphic.
We didn't talk about the head being cut off.
I think we were easing you in. We were easing you in. So therefore, also that day was considered a righteous. That also was considered a special day. Now there's a machloket exactly who this Lulianus and Papus were, but Rashi says whoever they were, tzadikim gimurim hayu. Now look at Rashi. Rashi also says, Ludki, he Lud. That refers to the city of Lud. That's what we mean we say in other places. The ones that were killed in the city of Lud al Kiddush Hashem, no one is in their division, in their section in Gan Eden. There's opinion that says that what happened there was the daughter of the king was found dead, and they spread a blood libel that the Jews killed her. So they decreed that all the Jews would pay the price, and all the Jews of the city would die because of this blood libel, because they killed the daughter of the emperor. Ve'amdu elu, and Lulianus and Papus stood up, upadu et Yisrael, and they redeemed the whole of Israel. Ve'amru anu hiragnua, we killed her. Ve'harag hamelech le'elu bilvad, and he killed only them instead of everybody else. So they died not only al Kiddush Hashem with the words that they said, but they also died and through their death managed to save the entire Jewish community. Magnificent. Okay? Let's move on. Okay? En Gozrin Taanit, says the Gemara. You see where we are? En Gozrin Taanit ala tzibur בתחילה בחמישי. אין גוזרין תענית בראשי חודשים. The Gemara said, the Mishnah, earlier said that we don't start a fast on a Thursday. And also, you don't start a fast on a Rosh Chodesh, okay? But what if they started the fast loop already, the 7 or whatever it is, and then one of them falls out on one of these days, so then we will fast even though it's on one of the days that you're not supposed to fast. The kama havya hatchala. So what does it mean that you already started? How many in do you need to be? Rav Acha amar shalosh. Rav Acha says you need to have done already 3 fasts. Rav Asi amar achat. Rav Asi says no. Once you did 1 in the series, you already started.
If you did the Monday, then the Friday.
Chalas, you're done.
Didn't we do this once a couple pages back?
We did.
This is the Mishnah.
Yeah, this is the Mishnah.
Oh, okay.
The Mishnah, and now the Gemara is qualifying and saying, what did we mean when we said if you start, you don't stop? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav, Zu Divrei Rabbi Meir. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Sha'amar Mishum, Rabban Shimon bar Gamliel, said it in the name of Shimon bar Gamliel. Aval Chachamim Omrim, but the Chachamim explain, Mit'aneh u'mashlim. No, you fast and you make it up. What does it mean that you fast and you make it up? Yeah?
It's like we said with someone with a dream fast also.
Sorry?
When we said that someone had a dream where he was fasting on a dream, but it was on Shabbat, he has to make up another one because he fed.
So there's 2 different things. One is hold on 1 second.
Oh, that was a long way.
One is mitaneu mashlim, and that means that you fast and you finish the whole fast. Okay, but the other opinion says that you don't fast the entire thing. Okay, so Rabban Gamliel, who we just quoted, he holds that you start the fast on those days, but right before the end of it, you break it. Very similar to what we said about the Kohen that's not allowed to fast, but he joins in. He just breaks his fast right before nightfall. Okay. Aval Chachamim say, Mit'aneh u'mashlim. You fast and you break it. Darash Marzutra Mishmed Rav Huna. Rav Marzutra learned in the name of Rav Huna, Halacha Mit'aneh u'mashlim. That in a situation where we began the loop of those fasts, not only do you begin the fast, you also end the fast, because once you started, it's obviously so important to continue and finish those fasts because of the tragedy the Jewish people is going through. We'll push it off. Now, I always thought it was interesting. Now, because to me, it's obvious that that's the case. You have the Jewish people, they're starving. They don't have food. There's a drought. So the question is, are you allowed to fast if one of the middle fasts falls out on Purim? To me, that's like the most obvious thing in the world. Why? Because on Purim itself, Esther decreed a fast. And when did she decree a fast? On Pesach, which is a major holiday.
Right.
And she eliminated the major holiday because of the fact that the Jewish people's lives were on the line.
Same reason, yeah.
So how much more so would you be able to fast one of the whole series on Purim if it's an emergency, which we only institute series of fasts, for emergencies. So the Gemara says in the end, halacha is mit'aneh u'mashlim. We actually do fast, and you do finish the fast. Hadran alach seder taniyot ketzad. We've now finished the 2nd chapter of the Gemara. Hazaku Baruch.